Okay. So today we're going to talk about chapters 12 to 20. We're just going to summarize that. And then towards the end, we'll get everyone to share some reflections from self-unfoldment. Last time, not last week, the week before, we reflected on verses or chapters 1 to 11. We really summarized that. So this week, we will summarize 12 to 20. Chapter 11, we talked about vasanas. That's from where we left off. And we had said that these vasanas are these deep-rooted tendencies in us. And it just seems that even though we know this knowledge, we learn it, we listen to it, we want to apply it, but something makes us, something just holds us back. Something holds us back from living it. And what is it? It's our past tendencies, it's our past habits. That's called vasana. And the best way to really overcome these vasanas is through karma yoga. Now, in chapter 12, it shows us how these vasanas express in our lives. The vasanas express in our lives as our moods of the mind, or what we call gunas. So chapter 12 is about gunas. Guna means texture, means quality of the mind. And in this chapter, we explore the three gunas, which are sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. So these vasanas express as either sattvic mind, a rajasic mind, or a tamasic mind. So first, let's go to a tamasic mind. What is a tamasic mind? A tamasic mind is one that is very dull, one that is inert, one that's very sloppy. So expressions of tamas are procrastination, are laziness, as negligence, as forgetfulness. This kind of texture of mind that makes it very dull, makes it inert, is called a tamasic mind. A rajasic mind is one that's very active, that cannot sit still. It's always wanting to go here, wanting to go there, has so many desires, has so many activities, so many things it wants to engage on. It cannot stop. It's just restless. It's restlessly running around. And for most of the time, it's without any purpose whatsoever. It's just restlessly running around. It's called a rajasic kind of mind. And slowly what happens is one develops a sattvic kind of mind, which is very calm, peaceful, clear, alert. And this is the most relaxed kind of mind to have. And so spiritual practice, what it does is it helps us to cultivate a sattvic mind because it is calm, it's peaceful, it's alert. So this is what spiritual practice does. Why would one want to cultivate a sattvic mind? Because this sattvic mind, in this kind of clear mind, calm mind, the best decisions are made. The best kind of thinking happens. The best kind of creativity comes out. The best kind of contemplation or silence is enjoyed. The best relationships form from a sattvic mind, from a sattvic way of living life. So eventually, spiritual practices make us build this sattvic mind. And with this sattvic mind, life becomes more enjoyable, life becomes more beautiful also. And the bliss of a sattvic mind is also deeper. A tamasic happiness is very paltry. It's like eating a samosa, right? Very like, okay. A rajasic bliss is like, okay, I nailed it, getting something done. Oh, I did it. A sattvic bliss is the beauty of the sunshine, or the feeling of the wind on your skin, or a great reading great poetry. It's very subtle. It's very high. And this eventually is what Vedanta is guiding us to, because our scriptures want us to live the best life. They said, listen, we want you to enjoy life to the maximum. That's what you want, right? You want to enjoy life. We want you to enjoy life. But the way to do it is to develop a sattvic mind. And so, chapter 12, we looked into all of those details. Now, we go to chapter 13. A question comes that, is this the highest that I can go? Is this the most blissful that I can go to? This is the most blissful state that I can achieve? The answer is no, because even that sattvic mind can be binding. Because even one who becomes very sattvic, what happens? Certain things happen. One is they become proud. Oh, I am so sattvic. I am so sattvic, but you're not. I can't understand it, right? They become proud, or they think of themselves as better than other people. Or it binds them in the way that they want everything around them to be sattvic. They want the environment to be peaceful. They want the place around them to be peaceful. They want the people around them to be peaceful. And if it's not, they're not at peace. But life is not like that. Things cannot be sattvic all over us. So then they also feel bound sometimes. So then it makes you wonder, what else is there? What else is there is what we call beyond sattvic mind, or beyond the mind, beyond sattva, beyond the mind. And that is our nature. In the pursuit of a sattvic mind, we're still pursuing happiness at the level of the mind. But true happiness can really not be found at the level of the mind. The mind is something that's binding. As I said, it's going to go up and then it's going to go down. The minute we enjoy something, we're thinking it's going to end. So we become sad. So the trick is to go beyond sattva, beyond a sattvic mind. And that only happens by realizing our true nature. So in chapter 13, we explored the sheets, the 5 sheets. The food sheet, Annamaya Kosha. The vital air sheet, the Pranamaya Kosha. The mental sheet, Manomaya Kosha. Intellectual sheet, Vijnanamaya Kosha. And the bliss sheet, Anandamaya Kosha. Why are we exploring these sheets? We explored these sheets is because, if you're going to tell me that there's some self there that's beyond the mind, that's the seat of bliss, I don't get it. It's just too far-fetched. So the trick of the scriptures is, first they explain what we are not. First they explain the not self. And in explaining the not self, slowly when we remove all of those layers, we arrive at the self. And then you wonder, why are they called the not self? Why are these sheets called the not self? Because 3 things. One is that they keep changing. They keep changing. 2 is that they are inert. And 3 is that I am aware of them. So if we take the first sheet, the food sheet, which is, in other words, the body keeps changing. But there's something inside me that is aware of all of the changes of the body. I am aware of the body keeps changing, and the body is also inert. So therefore, I cannot be this body. And as I said now, I'm just touching upon this because we went through in detail when we discussed chapter 13. Then we look at the pranas. Pranas are these physiological functions of the body. And we think that, breath, energy, all of that is, so divine. But in reality, that also changes. Our breathing changes, right? We are aware of our breath, and our breath is inert. It can never know us. So we cannot be this prana, this breath, or this energy. Neither can we be the mind, because it's always changing, and the intellect, both always changing. We are aware of their changes, and they are inert. They cannot know us. The mind cannot know me. The intellect cannot know me, because I am aware of it. And we cannot be this bliss sheep, because even this bliss sheep, which resembles the highest bliss in the worldly realm, it's changing. It has gradations. Sometimes I'm very happy, but sometimes I'm not so happy. Sometimes I'm less happy. It has these gradations. And I'm also aware of it. So we begin to realize that all of these things, they keep changing. And we are aware of these changes, therefore they're different from me. And so we come to the conclusion that there's something there. There's something there that's me, and I need to know what that is. So we analyze it in chapter 13. We analyzed it through the 5 sheets. We analyzed it through the 3 bodies. In chapter 14, we also analyzed it through the 3 states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. We live our lives thinking that we are just the waker, that I am Shubhani and that's it. But that's really funny, because when we go to sleep, there's no sense of Shubhani. There's no sense of who we are. So it's not that we are the waker, because the waker is not there in dream state, nor is the waker there in deep sleep state. The waker is only there in waking state. The waker is in waking state. And therefore, that cannot be me, because I am present in waking, in dream, and in deep sleep. And so in chapter 14, we come to this revelation that, gosh, I'm not the waker. I am that awareness in which waking, dream, and deep sleep actually happen. I'm that awareness. And the nature of that awareness is Sat Chit Ananda. That Sat is to say that it's changeless. It's always there. It's never going to change. That Chit is to say that it's an awareness. It's not inert. We're aware of ourselves. And that Ananda is to say it is untouched. So many people feel like, why do I have to pursue this existence consciousness? Why should I pursue the study of existence consciousness? Because it is the seat of bliss. It's a seat of bliss because we are untouched by anything that happens. Because that consciousness is beyond the mind. So if you remember that example I gave you about the lighthouse, it's the witness of everything that happens, right? And that's why it's untouched. It's like the screen in which the movie plays. It's the lighthouse, which is unaffected by all of the waves going up and down. It's Sat Chit Ananda. Then in chapter 15, we saw that what is Vedanta? We saw how does one come to this, and how one comes to this realization is through the knowledge of the truth. And the knowledge of the truth is given in Vedanta. Vedanta means the conclusive teaching of the Veda. Veda Antaha, right? So Vedanam Antaha. The conclusive teaching of the Veda is called Vedanta. And the conclusive teaching of the Veda is the Mahavakya, or these great statements. And what are these great statements? These great statements are Tattvamasi, you are that. Or I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, Ayam Atma Brahma, this Atma is Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is Brahman. So in the Veda, the conclusive teaching is Vedanta. In Vedanta, the crux of it is what we call the Mahavakya. And therefore, realization is internalizing and abiding in this truth. So it's not that when I just say I am Brahman, that means I'm realized. So here we clearly discussed the process of self-realization. It starts with Shravanam, which is listening, Mananam, which is reflecting, and Nididhyasanam, contemplating on this message. Now, in chapter 16, we saw, okay, that's there, but how did this happen in the first place? Why did all of this happen? And there we saw avidya or maya or avidya. Avidya means ignorance. Ignorance means we were not aware of ourselves. It's almost that we forgot ourselves. It's not that we have to bring something from outside, but we have to realize already what's there. And so this forgetting ourselves is because of ignorance. And this ignorance has two aspects. One is what we call non-apprehension, and the other is what we call misapprehension. So in the example of the rope and the snake, we look at the rope, but the light is dim. Therefore, we're not able to recognize it's the rope. We think there's a snake there, right? So I don't know what that is. I think it's a snake. So there's two powers. One is called avarana, means I don't know what that is, and therefore I think there's a snake on the rope. This is what happens. The second power is called vikshepa. How does that translate? That translates to us, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am, avarana. Therefore, I think I am the body, mind, and intellect. This is what happens. So this ignorance is a forgetfulness of who we are. And because we forget who we are, we think we're something else. So what Vedanta is trying to tell us is think. All Vedanta is saying is just think clearly. The problem is we don't have time to think. Actually, in truth, we don't have to study so many scriptures. We don't have to go to so many teachers. Just pay attention to our lives. Pay attention to our experience. You experience this truth every single day. You are that awareness. Everything around you is changing, but there's something in you that is there. You experience it every single day. But the thing is, we don't pay attention to it. So because of this ignorance, that's why knowledge is the remedy. And this is a very important point, because otherwise nobody will pursue knowledge. So the main problem in Vedanta we established is ignorance. We don't know who we are. We think we're something else. And that is the seat of all sorrow. That is the root of all sorrow. Because I think I'm the body, I identify with all the limitations of the body. Because I think I'm the mind, I identify with all the limitations of the mind. Because I think I'm the intellect, I identify with all the limitations of the intellect. And when I ever identify with what's limited, I'm sad because I'm limited. I identify with the body, I feel I'm too fat. I feel I'm too thin. I feel I'm too tall, too short, too white, too dark. I identify with the mind, I feel I'm too nice, or I'm too, disturbed, or I'm too calm, or I'm too insensitive. Again, up and down. I identify with the intellect. I feel, oh, I am the doer. I'm doing everything. I should be recognized, or I'm so insecure. Nobody really likes me. All of these things happen. All of these emotions happen when we identify with the limited. So this is the root of sorrow. And so that's why Vedanta comes and says, nope, you are not the body, mind, intellect. You are not this limited individual. You are consciousness. And so this is what happens. Now, in chapter 17, we saw now the one who realizes this knowledge, the one who's aware of this knowledge, what happens to them? So they live life very differently. Sometimes we wonder, why are we pursuing this? Why are we learning this? Why are we going through this? In your life, after learning some of this, you would have also noticed some changes, some positive changes happening. Whether you've become more patient, become more calm, become more understanding, you will notice that there are little changes happening in your life. When one realizes the truth, what happens to their life? their lives, first of all, become a blessing to everyone around them. Whether they're still, whether they're moving, whether they're in a crowd, whether they decide to live alone, is because they have so much purity and they live a life of complete selflessness. They have no selfish agenda. They have no agenda to make themselves known, to gain so much money, to have so much comfort. They have no selfish agenda because they understand that there's no need to pursue the world for any paltry pleasure. Not only that, but they are very equanimous. They're very balanced because they understand who they really are. They understand that they're that pure consciousness, so they're not affected by the ups and downs of life. So they're equanimous, they are balanced, and they're very cheerful. They're able to live life with a sense of ease and peace. And this is what we all aspire for. The question becomes, how does one get there? I mean, is knowledge enough? I'm listening to this knowledge, I'm understanding this knowledge, I'm trying to grasp it. Is this knowledge enough? So in chapter 18, Gurudev makes it very clear that knowledge is not enough. What is required is purity of mind. For the realization of the self, we require two things, which is purity of mind and clarity of knowledge. Clarity of knowledge we gain in study. We gain by analyzing that we're not the body, mind, and intellect. We gain through thorough analysis. We gain that clarity. We remove our doubts. But purity is something completely different. And in chapter 18, he points out the 9 qualities that are required for every sincere seeker. And this is what is called actually sadhana chatushtaya. It's actually 4-fold qualities, but in the third one, there's 6 encased in it. So it becomes 9. And although we talked about this, I'll just touch upon it so that you're aware. So we are on chapter 18 now. The first quality is what we call viveka. Viveka or discrimination. What viveka means is the capacity to reflect. We don't have this capacity. Unfortunately, we're living our lives like robots, doing the same thing every day, meeting the same people, doing the same routine. And we don't pause and stop and reflect and ask questions like, what am I here for? Why am I doing this? Is whatever I'm doing really worth it? Is it really taking me somewhere? What actually am I doing with my life? What am I looking for? This first step is examination of my own life. And Socrates says the unexamined life is not worth living. Many times we don't examine our lives. And this Viveka says, stop. Stop every single thing that you're doing right now. Just think about life. And when we do think about life, we will come to the realization that there are 2 things. 1 is the permanent, 2 is the impermanent. Every single thing that we've pursued is impermanent. We've pursued relationships. We've pursued wealth, power. We've pursued name, fame. We've pursued every possible thing, but it's all impermanent. And although we get a little bit happy, again, it will go. We become a little bit happy and then again sad. It's like we're on this big roller coaster. So a time will come when we say, you know what, I've been pursuing all of this and it's impermanent. And there's something permanent there. So this sort of discrimination between what's impermanent and what's permanent, that's called viveka. At least that's getting us to a starting point, that there are actually 2 things. One's permanent, one is impermanent. The second step is what we call vairagya or detachment. And this is, now I know that there's all of this is impermanent. And it's not just knowing, it's being convinced about it. This viveka is being convinced about it. Because we all know it's impermanent, but we're not convinced. It's impermanent, but I still want it. Still give it to me. It's impermanent, but just still give it to me, right? There's no conviction. So with viveka, there has to be a conviction. You know, it's impermanent. Vairagya or detachment is, I know that it's impermanent, therefore I don't want it. I don't want it. That's called vairagya, the absence of desire for anything in the world and hereafter. I don't want anything in the world for my own joy. If it's there, fine. If it's not there, fine. But I don't want it. I don't have the feeling of want. I don't need to run after it because it's not giving me the kind of joy that I want. So this kind of detachment thing, I don't want all of this. That's called vairagya. And that comes after really clear thinking. Then what happens is the third quality, there's 6. And we examined each of these. First is what we call shama or control of mind. So first I'll tell you what the 6 are and then we will go. Shama is control of mind, dhamma control of senses, uparama control of activity, shraddha faith, titiksha endurance, and samadhanam single-pointedness. What happens when we develop a sense of detachment is we're able to control our minds better. Shama, control the mind means manage the mind, means make the mind available to where I need it to be. Sometimes the mind is somewhere else and I need it to be here, right now. It's extroverted, it's gone out in the world, it's thinking about something that I'm going to get, thinking about something that I want, thinking about how to keep something that I have, and it keeps going out. But once this detachment becomes little ripe, we're able to bring the mind where we need it to be. And that is called shama, bringing the mind where I need it to be. Dhamma means bringing the senses where I need them to be, control of senses. Our senses also go wild in the world, because we feel we're going to get happiness from ice cream or like going out or going on a hike. So the senses want to just run out. And there's nothing wrong with all of this, but saying to run out, without moderation, without considering the time, the place, they just want to just run out impulsively. So the being able to manage them and engage them intelligently with moderation is called dhamma. Senses, it doesn't mean that senses don't engage in the world, they do, but intelligently and with moderation. What also tends to happen with detachment is what we call uparama, the third one, which means control of activity. Before, there's FOMO. I'm going to miss out on this party. I'm going to miss out on this event, on this engagement. And so one wants to go everywhere, to everyone's house, to do every single thing because you feel like I'm going to miss out. Nobody's going to call me and invite me. All these kinds of things happen. Uparama means I become more selective in my activity. It's not about the quantity. It's not about going to all of these gatherings. It's about where is it meaningful? What are my most meaningful relationships? Where should I really invest my time? So there's also what happens is managing of activity. We don't over-engage in so many things. We actually selectively engage. All of this shama, dhamma, uparama, it's selectively engaging the mind, selectively engaging the senses, selectively engaging in activity. This is what happens when one becomes more detached because they realize what I want is not what I'm getting. The world can't give me what I want. I tried. We tried for so many years, 30, 40 years. We didn't get it. What makes us think we're going to get it still? We're not going to get it. The next quality is what we call shraddha or faith. And this faith is a very funny thing because, without faith, we won't move. And sometimes this can be a block for seeker, because when we learn about this Brahman, consciousness, awareness, existence, is it really there or is it a hoax, right? Why should we believe it? So there's lots of doubts that can happen. So what the scriptures say is, look, feel free to doubt and question, because the scriptures have answers. But they say, don't drop it. Don't drop Vedanta. Hold on until the end, because you will get it. You will get it. Just, you can doubt, you can question, you can ask, you can do all of that, because the scriptures have answers to every single question. But all they're saying is, hold on. Just hold on. Maybe we don't realize the truth, or we're not able to realize the truth right here and right now, but maybe we know someone who has. Maybe we know someone who's on the path. Maybe we have seen a glimpse of it. Maybe we've seen a change in our lives ever since we've gotten to know it. So just hold on. This Shraddha means just hold on to the Guru. Just hold on to the scriptures. Keep going. You have questions, it's okay. But don't let go until you and I realize the truth. That is what's called faith. Then we have what is called titiksha, which is endurance. This endurance is a very beautiful quality, because along our lives, many things can happen. And a lot of things can happen in our own homes also. And very often they're so petty. This titiksha or endurance means, let the petty stuff go away. Don't sweat the small stuff. If you and I are going to sit there and complain about every little thing, it's a waste of energy, waste of my spiritual stamina. So whatever petty things are there that are happening in our life, it's not conducive to me. I don't like it. It's not the way I want it. Let it go. We don't have to complain, call every single thing out. We don't have to fix every single thing. Only choose whatever is worth your time. Time is so incredibly precious. If we don't have endurance, what happens is every single small petty thing that's not conducive to us, we will pay so much attention to it, all of our time will go there. So don't sweat the small stuff, focus on the big picture and just endure it. It's like a runner who's running a marathon, right? They have a goal, they want to run the race. So, okay, fine. If they're sweating a little, fine. If they're hungry a little, fine. If it's too hot, it's okay. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't, like it's so small, it's so petty. Just keep going, you know? But if every single thing, the runner, he or she will say, oh my gosh, I'm sweating, let me pull out my towel. Oh my gosh, it's too hot, let me take a break. Oh my gosh, this is, if every single thing they will stop, they will never get to the goal. So the petty things, just let it go. Let it go. Titiksha. Samadhanam means single pointedness. So shama means bring the mind to where we need it. Samadhana means keeping it there. That's a difficult thing. Huh? One point is bringing the mind where we need it. That is the first step. But keeping the mind there, that is another story. That is called samadhana, single pointedness of mind. And then finally, the fourth quality. So first quality is viveka, vairagya. Then we have the six or shamadhi shatka sampatti. And the fourth one is what we call mumukshutva. Mumukshutva means this burning desire for liberation, which many of us don't have, right? Which, if we ask somebody who wants enlightenment right here and right now, nobody wants it. Mumukshutva means it's that burning desire for it. It's that, yes, I realize that that's really, really what I want. I realize that I don't want anything else, but I just want to realize this truth. That is mumukshutva. these four qualities put together is purity of mind. So this is what realization takes. It takes the clarity of knowledge, but it also takes the purity of mind in the form of these 9 qualities. So this is chapter 18. It's one chapter, but it's a lifetime of practice. Each one, if we just take each one and try to practice one, that will be wonderful. Or just take even one, not each one, just pick even one. If we can just even pick one and work on it, all the others will come. Now, finally, then, in chapter 19, we talked a lot about meditation. And it's a very beautiful, place where, okay, I'm working on myself now, I'm listening to the lectures, I'm listening, I'm studying, I'm also reflecting. But still, there's just still so much in me where I'm not able to live this truth. I'm not able to live up to it. I'm not able to apply it in my life. What's the issue here? The issue here is our vasanas are just too strong. Our negative vasanas are too strong. The anger still comes, desire for the world still comes, impatience comes, strong likes and likes, they still come. So what's the solution of these vasanas, these deep-seated impressions? What if they're too strong? So one solution we know is karma yoga. It's a brilliant solution. Later in the spiritual path, the solution is meditation. And so we discussed all about meditation. What it is, we said that it is quietening the mind and transcending the mind. So it's not just quietening the mind, but it's also transcending the mind. And we said that why is this meditation done? It's done to abide in the self. It's done to abide in our nature. And Gurudev gives a very beautiful example in this chapter about eating our favorite chocolate with a wrapper. So imagine if you're eating your favorite chocolate, but you're eating it with a wrapper, right? You can't digest it. You can't swallow it. You just want to spit it out because you can't take it in. And what happens in life is the chocolate is like this knowledge of the self, right? This knowledge that you are bliss. And the wrapper is like our vasanas. So although we maybe have a glimpse of this knowledge, we're not able to digest it because our negative vasanas are still so strong. So therefore, to thin these vasanas, to abide in the self, we practice meditation. Of course, in this chapter, we also talked about who is it that can meditate. And in that context, I had explained to you 3 beautiful qualities. One is the one who's done their dharma, they can meditate. Because they've done their duty, they can sit quietly. If we have not done our duty, if there's something pending, we didn't do it well, there's going to be regret, there's going to be guilt, there's going to be a feeling of I should have done this, I should have done that. We can't sit quietly. It won't work. The second point is the one who lives a life in moderation. That person can sit quietly. One who eats too much, forget about it. One who eats too less, not happening. One who sleeps too much, sleeps too less. One who's too active, one who's too lazy. All of these extremes don't work at the seat of meditation. It has to be someone who's living a life of moderation. Because physically we won't be able to sit then. And the third point was no sankalpa. Sankalpa means the imagination that there is joy in something. Oh, if I get this, I'm going to be very happy. If this happens, I'm going to be ecstatic. We have all these imaginative thoughts that I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be happy. That's not going to help us sit down. It's going to make the mind really go out. So if I'm a serious seeker and I want to spend time in quietude, then we have to work on these 3 things. We have to work on being able to fulfill our duties every day. We have to work on living a life in moderation and also free from these sankalpas. And of course, we talked about how to meditate. We said to always start with japa, because in Vedantic meditation, we are meditating on these mahavakyas. We're meditating on I am pure consciousness. That's very hard, very, very hard. So to start, we meditate, we contemplate on a name and a form of God or goddess. And that's why we tell the kids, have an MPG, my personal God, have a mantra, contemplate on the name or the form of that god or goddess till the mind develops a way to be single pointed, a way to remain single pointed. Till that mind develops, one must do japa. Otherwise, if one goes straight to contemplating on the formless, it will be very, very difficult. You can try. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The training of the mind is essential. And so that's why the practice of japa is brought in this chapter. We talked about when to meditate very early in the morning, that you all know, and where in your own personal altar or space. And that is your the key to the successful practice is regularity and sincerity. That is your place, your commitment. Nobody can come there. And if you and I are regular, if we are sincere, then surely the mind will quieten down. Then we come to chapter 20, where it is called sustained joy. What happens? What happens when somebody realizes this truth? When somebody, one, gains knowledge of the self, right? I am that pure self through Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasnam. Two, when one attains that purity of mind, those 9 qualities, in a good measure. And 3, then is able to stay rooted in this truth. Their lives are actually manifesting this truth. What happens? So in chapter 20, Gurudev says that this person lives in sustained joy, meaning that they experience happiness not as a state of mind, which will come and go, which is the happiness that we experience now, but they will be rooted in the happiness that is their very, very nature. And so their lives are fulfilled. They don't anymore feel the need to do anything, to go anywhere, to pursue anything. They don't anymore feel the need to do any of that. Now you're going to ask me, but they still have to act, don't they? They still have to live in this world. So what do? They live their lives in complete surrender, where they are just guided by the higher. And whatever's brought to them is what happens. They're not actively pursuing. They have no agenda. They have no want, no need. Whatever comes to them, that's what they pursue. That's what they do. And so they're ever free. I mean, imagine your mind not hankering for, not wanting, not running after, not going nuts. Imagine the mind just being free and at ease. This is what self-realization is. It's being rooted in the self, which is beyond the mind. But even while living in this world, in a peaceful mind. And so the self-realized master can be anywhere. They can be alone, they can be in a crowd, they can be amidst any place, but they still enjoy the same peace. I'm going to read to you the last paragraph of what Swami Chinmayanandaji has written. It's very, very beautiful. So I just want to read that to you. Then we'll pause. It's on page 219 of the book, on chapter 20. It says, to rediscover the truth that was always in us but had become temporarily veiled is the culmination of evolution. As you rediscover the truth of your own nature, the pure self, you gain an unshakable peace and never-ending joy. Recognition of the self is a crowning victory in life. This is Ishvara Darshana, the vision of God. Once you own that vision, no outer circumstance of sorrow or joy, insult or respect, failure or success, poverty or riches, disaster or progress can touch you. You are above all circumstances. You are no longer a victim of the external, but are ever rooted in your realization of the pure self, which is the self everywhere. You become a calm witness of the universe, as it were a mere temporary disturbance within the great expanse of yourself. It's very, very beautiful. So with this, we conclude self-unfoldment. We have gone through a wonderful journey, all the 20 chapters. We had summarized the chapters. It's a very beautiful text, and it really gives insights on each portion of self-realization. So I hope that all of you benefited from it. And I'm going to take a moment to pause here, and I'll stop this recording